Well, I'm chair of the Fisheries and Oceans Committee, and in the past we've been focusing on the Arctic. As a matter of fact, we've been one of the few parliamentary committees, I think, that have been doing that. And we focused on the Coast Guard and made some recommendations to the government about how they should better do security, the need for ships, the need for regulations, the need for a Canadian presence there, the need to engage Aboriginal people in policy making. And so we made those reports to the government, and I think I can say that 80 to 85% of the recommendations we made were agreed to by the government. Not that they put them all into force, but they've agreed with them, and hopefully they'll get done over a period of time. One of the things they did was to make the shipping regulations compulsory. They had been voluntary before. Compulsory on the East Coast, compulsory on the West Coast, voluntary in the Arctic. And so the government has now made shipping regulations in the Arctic compulsory for ships 300 tons or over. That means you have to report to Canadian authorities where you didn't before. So this is an important step forward because we have to know what's going on in the Northwest Passage. The ice is melting and ships are coming through there, and we have to know what's going on. So I think that we can claim that that was a recommendation that a Senate committee made, which the government followed through on. Well, I've been writing, and I've got one book that is near you there called The Story of Labrador. And Labrador, of course, has been my bailiwick for almost 39 years, and both in the House of Commons and here in the Senate. So I've done a history which takes the history of Labrador up to 2003, and there's not much written on Labrador, and I thought there should be. So this was one of this. That was my first effort, but my latest effort is this one here, and it's called St. John's and the Battle of the Atlantic, and it's about the role of St. John's, Newfoundland in the Second World War, and that role was substantial. We weren't part of Canada then, but we played a critical role because we were the closest point to Europe. And so for the convoys going across the Atlantic, it was important that they have a port that was close by to house the escorts. And so the Newfoundland Escort Force was born, which commandeered almost every ship that the Canadian Navy had at that time, at the beginning of the Second World War. So this is a story of St. John's and how it served the Canadian Navy and other navies too. And what happened to St. John's as a result of this. There was a massive investment of infrastructure, and there was a closer relationship with Canadians, because you got to remember that I was not born a Canadian. And I was 13 years old when we joined Canada. I was 18 when I joined the Canadian Navy. And so this was for me, it was a Canadianizing experience, but we served Canada and the Allied forces before we became part of the country. And this is the story of how St. John's served in the Second World War and the effect that all of that had, because we joined Canada in 1949, which was 4 years after the end of the Second World War. So you can see that the war had an impact, and our connection with Canada and the Navy was a significant factor in bringing us into the country in the first place. So this is the story of St. John's and the Battle of the Atlantic, with pictures.